this is Ann Smith. Maggie, a couple weeks ago, posted a recipe under weight loss called Crock-Pot Skinny Lemon Chicken. Now it's for crock-pot, and I said to her, I wonder if I could do that in my Instapot. And she said she didn't know because she had just gotten one for Christmas. So I've decided to experiment and try. The first thing it wants you to do is to melt some coconut oil, which I have in the pot, and add chicken. Now they want it cubed. I'm going to use whole pieces of chicken because of the timing difference. And so I'm going to turn my machine. Now I have an Ultra 6-quart. It's not what I wanted to do. So I'm going to say cancel. Alright, I'm going down to saute. And I'm going to hit start for saute. And that's what the beeping means, is yes, it knows I want to saute. And now the coconut oil will start melting. And once it's melted, I'm going to add my 2 chicken breasts, and I'm going to kind of make them a little brown. And then I'm going to take them out briefly onto a pan and scrape the bottom. And you want to scrape the bottom. It's called deglazing, because if you don't, you run the risk of getting the dreaded burn note, which is something that people who use their Instapots know about. Basically what it means is that the sensors in the bottom of the Instapot have detected stuff that it can't heat without causing the house to go on fire. So it turns the machine off. These things are really, really super safe. My coconut oil is almost fully melted now. They have all sorts of safeguards to prevent burning, to prevent it from exploding. You know, everyone goes, oh, I'm so afraid of it. It's going to explode on me. No, not really. Also, you'll find that if you... Somebody said, well, what happens about steam? Well, if you look over a pot like this, when it's all hot on the stove and it's full of water, you get steam in the face. Same here. But right now it's not that hot. It's just melting the coconut oil. Now it will come on and tell me that it's hot in a minute. And then I'm going to put the chicken in it. And like I said, fry it up just a little bit. Not for more than a couple minutes on a side. And then we will start actually cooking. Things that I have set aside over here. When I am going to pressure cook this, I'm doing it in vegetable broth. You need at least a cup. And I'm doing it with garlic and salt. And that's what is going to be in the pressure cooker with the chicken for the 12 minutes that I'm going to set it to pressure cook. Or did I decide 10? I decided 10. And the reason for that is 12 minutes would make it so cooked that you could just kind of shred it. I don't want it quite that much. I want it to be a little bit so that you can cut it into chunks. And I'm waiting, I'm looking at the front, and the front says on. It says the temperature is high, and it's showing me by a little graph on mine that it's preheating. So I'm going to take my chicken, Alright, so the pot's hot. It even tells me it's hot. And now it's gone back to on because it's got cold food in it. And I'm going to let it sit there for a minute, 2. And then I'm going to flip each piece over. and I have to avoid the popping coconut oil. So I have long tongs. Now this was 1.12 pounds of chicken. Now the recipe I had that called for 12 minutes was for 2 pounds of chicken. That's the other reason to cut down the time. 10 minutes might even be too much. But we'll try 10. If it's a little bit too much cooked, it'll just shred rather than be chunky. Now I'm flipping these over. And I'll cook them a couple minutes on that side. I've not tried using coconut oil before. It's kind of spattery, it seems like. I use this organic vegetable broth, and I use my virgin organic coconut oil. And you'll see in a minute, after I take these out, why I want to deglaze the pot. To deglaze a pot, you put some of your liquid in. I'm not going to put all of this in, but I'm going to put a little bit in. And I take this with the flat edge and I'm scraping the bottom because there's little bits of chicken attached to the bottom, and you don't want that to be there when you put this under pressure. No, it's pretty good. I'm going to put a little bit more in because it's all cooking off. There, that looks pretty good. I'm going to put the chicken back in. I'm going to put my garlic and salt in. Now I will include this recipe on the bottom of my live along with this video. I put the garlic in on the top, and now I'm going to kind of turn my chicken pieces over a couple times to try to get the garlic everywhere. I'm going to put the rest of this in. This is the vegetable broth. So there's a cup of liquid in there to allow you to pressurize it. Now I'm going to put the lid on. And the way you do that is you line this part back with this. Now mine automatically seals. Some of them you have to press this little lever to seal it. Mine you do not. I'm going to hit cancel because you don't want to saute anymore. I'm changing it up to pressure cook, which is also called manual on some of them. I'm going to select the amount of time that I need. Mine defaults to 5 minutes. I want more than that. I want 10. It's on high pressure. Delay is off because I want it to cook right now. It's on keep warm, which means that after it's done cooking and depressurizing it, and the temperature, it has a sensor in there to determine what temperature it is. When the temperature starts to drop, it will keep the food warm until you eat it. So it's at 10 minutes pressure cook, high pressure, delays off, keep warm, and I'm going to hit start. And that beeping means that my pressure cook is on. Now it's preheating. Because I had done the sauteing earlier, some of that liquid is already warm, so it's not going to take quite as long to preheat as if you're using cold liquid. Now, after it's done pressure cooking, and this is true of the slow cook recipe too, it wants you to, it says 30 to 40 minutes before serving. This is the slow cook part. They want you to whisk together some vegetable broth, some lemon juice, some lemon zest, coconut aminos, and some honey. Now, I haven't used 3 lemons, I used 2 because I found that we are not quite so lemony of a family. And since coconut aminos are a little bit sweet, I didn't use the 2 full tablespoons of honey. I only used 1.5. But I will whisk this together. I have to go get my whisk because I forgot to bring it over. Next time I will remember to use a slightly deeper bowl. Because it's hard to whisk this together. I actually don't think I'm going to add the extra vegetable broth. The one thing that I found about the pressure cooking recipes is because you're cooking with a cup of fluid, and the moisture really doesn't leak out anywhere. It's not like slow cooker where you're cooking for 6 hours and the moisture seeps out the edges a little bit. Well, this doesn't. So you don't necessarily need quite as much liquid as you would to cook for 6 hours. Now, one thing to know about pressure cookers, if you haven't ever used this one before, one of these electric ones before, it'll say it wants it for, there are no seconds on the dial. It starts at, the farthest right number is minutes. So when it calls for 5 minutes, it should say 005, not 500. 500 would be 5 hours. I know somebody was trying to cook eggs for 5 minutes and they had it at 500. Didn't realize it was 5 hours until about 15 minutes into it. Realized that their pot hadn't stopped. Alright, it's building pressure, preheating. It's making a little bit of hissing noise and there's a little bit of steam coming out of the valve. And the reason for that is it hasn't come fully to pressure yet. Once it comes to fully to pressure, all that steam will stop and it will stay inside the pot. And mine has a little silver pin, and you can probably see it from above, and the silver pin is wobbling and trying to come up. It's coming up. Ta-da! The pin is up. It's stopped leaking any type of steam, and it is cooking. It says it's still preheating, but it's really close to being full pressure for it to have stopped like that. Now, what am I going to serve this with? I thought that I would, now I didn't get the poppy seeds and I don't have the green onions, so I'm not going to sprinkle it with poppy seeds and green onions. That is something that you can do. It's in the recipe. I'm going to serve this with zoodles. And I may actually put my zoodles in at the end when I'm putting this sauce in. That might be a good time to do it. It'll warm them up a little bit. I'll have to open it up and decide, because this is my first time with this recipe. I know, going live with something that you're not sure that, there it goes. All right, it's now at pressure. What that beep meant was, hey, we're cooking. And my display over here says 10 minutes. So it will cook for 10 minutes. The crock-pot is, the Instapot is now at fully cooked, and it says 0000. There are a couple ways of releasing the pressure, because you cannot open it with all the pressure in it. That's one of the safety features that are different from the old ones. So I have to release the pressure. There's two ways of doing it. One is called natural pressure release, which is just leaving it alone, which is what it's doing right now. Gradually the steam is coming out of these areas. You can't, it's so little and so slow you can't see it. But it's typically used for meats and things that you want to cook just a little bit longer. The other way is called quick pressure release, and that involves pushing this lever down. Now there's two ways of doing that. You can just push it down and let it all push steam everywhere. I typically don't like that, because if there's any type of fluid in this, which there is, it might come up through here and you might end up with fluid everywhere. So I do what's called a control quick release, which is pushing it a little bit, pushing it a little bit, pushing it a little bit, and it comes out in bursts. And the first time I did it, we both jumped, because it's a little loud. And I don't have the spoon I usually use. I'm going to go get that. I have a wooden spoon, nice long handle, and I usually feed it through here. Alright, it's been a couple minutes. And see, this is, now some people talk about, oh, I just throw a towel over it. Instapot tells you not to do that, because they have fail-safes and you have just removed the fail-safe. So it's better just to do this. Alright, that's the full release. And that's how I stop it. What I'm waiting for is my silver pin right there. And don't put your hand in front of the steam. I didn't, so I did not get burned, but you could if you did. I'm waiting for this pin here to drop. Now I'm going to push it all the way down, because there's so little steam left. And there goes the pin. Alright, now it's the instant time to open the thing. So we turn it, and see how easy it was to turn now that all the pressure's gone. And I lift this up. And I'm going to put the lid, there are two little holders for the lids. I normally put it on that side, but that kind of blocks my vision. I'm not sure if it blocks the vision upstairs, so I'm going to just put this down over here. But normally, I put it in one of these sides. And I have chicken in here now, and it looks pretty much like it's cooked. I'm going to take one piece out and cut it and see if I cooked it all the way, to see if my guessing at 10 minutes was the right amount. Because if not, you can just turn it back on. In fact, I'm going to put this over it in case I have to put it back in. Nope, it's cooked. So, because that was the thicker of the two breasts. And I did it the right amount for a non-shredding piece. If I had wanted to shred it, it probably should have gone the extra couple minutes. Alright, I'm going to hit cancel. I'm going to turn it back to saute. And now I'm going to add our little mixture of lemon juice, lemon zest, coconut aminos, and honey. And it really didn't need any more liquid than it was in it. So I used a cup of the vegetable broth, and that is plenty. What I'm going to do now is let this saute in here for a few minutes, and that will cook down the liquid a little bit. It'll let the chicken absorb some of the yummy sauce. And in a few minutes, if it looks like it's not going to thicken up, I'm going to add a little bit of cornstarch to it to really thicken it. But it's starting to come to heat. And it's starting to bubble. So basically what I've shown here is the fact that you can adapt crock pot recipes for your Instapot. I got lucky that this worked out quite this well the first time. Sometimes it's trial and error and you have to make a few more adjustments for the next time you make it. But this seems to have turned out pretty well, actually. Things I did to help it along was I looked at other recipes to see how long you needed to cook chicken, and I didn't find a recipe quite like this, but there were some similar, and I looked at those and looked at timing and looked at ingredients. So now I have to decide if I want to add the zoodles. What do you think? Should I add the zoodles? I get the, I don't know, face from my husband, who's going to be the guinea pig. I've not done zoodles before. So rather than buying a zoodle making machine and doing them myself, for our first time, I thought I would just buy zoodles. I'm probably not going to use the whole package because it seems like there's quite a few zoodles. I think the zoodles only need like a minute, so I'm gonna let this bubble for a few. And for anyone who doesn't know what zoodles are, they are zucchini noodles. You use a spiralizer and make little noodles out of zucchini. So you pretend you're having pasta and you're not. Things that I've made in my pot. I made a roast. Turned out really well. I used baby potatoes with it. I like that because they stayed whole and they weren't too mushy. People sometimes talk about how if you take a big potato and cut it into chunks and put it in there, it turns into mush. And I found with the baby potatoes, they stayed whole. I made spaghetti squash in here, and that turned out really nice. We used that as the base of another dish, and we put that the other dish inside of the spaghetti squash.
Made the turkey.
I made the turkey breast for Thanksgiving. It was 6 minutes per pound. I had a 7-pound, just under 7-pound turkey breast. So it was 42 minutes for the actual cooking.
But in a bigger pan. Bigger pan, right? You made it in that one?
I made it in that pan. My husband's saying bigger pan, and I said nope, that pan. Fits. If it fits, I can stuff it. I had to take the trivet out because the trivet was made it too high. But it was 15 minutes to warm it up, to pressurize it. I let it do that natural pressure release for 20 minutes after it was done cooking, and 42 minutes of cooking. So in about an hour and 15 minutes, we had turkey.
You made chili.
I've made chili.
Refried beans.
I made refried beans. Those are not on the plan, but they were good. The other thing that I'm going to make later, or at least I'm going to start it on live, I probably won't finish it on live. I'll talk about what accessories I've bought. Oh, I made hard-boiled eggs. Lots and lots of hard-boiled eggs. Those are good snacks. But I will talk about the accessories I have for my pot during the live. One of the things that I did first was bought 2 pots. So I have a second pot. So like today, when I'm doing meal prep for multiple meals, I don't have to necessarily wash everything every single time. Now you can saute on high, which is what it's doing. If you want a lower volume saute, you can saute on medium and low, at least on my pot. I know some pots are different. Alright. It's still a little bit watery. I am going to add just a touch of cornstarch. Usually, if I'm going to add cornstarch, I would add it to a small bowl of liquid and not sprinkle it directly in the pot. And I was thinking I got lumps of it in there, but no, actually what I have is lumps of garlic. Alright, I'm going to add my zoodles and then turn this off. I'm going to put a lid over those 2 chicken breasts so that they stay warm. Because you don't want cold chicken. I'm getting a grumpy face. Alright, so hopefully up there you can see what my zoodles look like. And I'm going to hit cancel now. And that'll turn off the heat because I think the zoodles are probably thoroughly done. Now, things that happen. Oops. If I put this lid here, there's a cup back here. And if there's a lot of condensation on your lid, it ends up in the cup, so it doesn't end up all over your counter. There's a little track around the edge here that allows it to escape. Get another pair. Get my slotted spoon, it'll be easier than using the tongs. Have a small bite, and then we're going to be done. I think it turned out pretty good. Thank you very much. We will see you later.